Okay, welcome. This is Level 1, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. It's February 4th, and we're doing Lesson 4. So amazingly enough, this is Week 4. Oh, and let me also begin my record on the Educreation screen back here behind me. So we are talking all about, basically, organic and inorganic life. This is the crux of all of this information that I have that is about your physical container and your temporal ego, what has traditionally been defined as yourself, as being only the tip of the iceberg or a proportion of yourself, and that there is this large, I color it with colors of the rainbow, but really, this is a light that is from inside of your mind. So not to be too literal, but you are surrounded by a ball of rainbow light, and these energy centers or chakras are inorganic beings. Okay, so now let's get into it. The definition by science of organic life as opposed to inorganic life. And in previous lessons, I've been doing a lot of work with moving away from duality and the limitations that imposes on our perception and belief system. So I do not mean to inject more duality here by saying, today we're contrasting organic life versus inorganic life. However, there's a contrast that needs to be made because each partner in this relationship plays a particular role. And it's very helpful to say, this is this partner's role and this is this partner's role. So we'll begin with the definition of life according to science. It's an organism that eats, metabolizes, it achieves homeostasis. This is balance within, like maintaining a body temperature, maintaining blood pressure, even a simple circuit like an electrical current could be defined as achieving homeostasis if that simple circuit is able to regulate the flow of energy in order to keep it the same, so that it's always flowing at the same speed. This has something to do with, one moment please, I'm working on making sure that there are not, gotta take care of the mute. There we go. Okay, that was nope. There we go. I really noticed last week when I didn't have the mute on that there was a distracting amount of static, so I'm trying to stay on top of that this week. No offense to anyone who is called in, but I have muted you so that there will not be excessive static on the recording. But welcome, it is lovely to see you. I'm right now at the moment defining according to science what life is. So life is organic life according to science, because scientists are themselves organic containers for life. So, it's like we always paint a self-portrait. We always look at the world and project our own image on the world. So science defines an organism as being quote unquote alive if you eat and you metabolize and you respirate and you achieve homeostasis, if you respond to stimuli, like if someone pokes you with a stick and you move away from the stick, or someone burns you with a match and you move away from the match, that is, a sign of life. Reproduction, that's another sign of life. There are some organisms, such as viruses, that do not fully meet the definition of what is alive according to science. For example, a virus is only semi-alive. It cannot do certain functions on its own without a physical, corporeal host. You, or anyone else who has a physical body, can act as a host or a container for a virus, and the virus requires you in order to eat, to ingest nutrients, and to replicate itself, to reproduce. So although viruses display some of the hallmarks of life, they respond to stimuli, they achieve homeostasis. In many ways, we can say, yes, viruses are alive, but in many other ways, we can say that They are not fully alive. And since we have so many returning students here, and I'm not dropping any, virtual bombs on anyone's mind, the idea is that viruses did not exist until the fall in consciousness and reduction in quality of vibration of energy that humanity was experiencing. Previous to the fall that happened around 10 or 12,000 years ago. And I've spoken about this in lesson 18 with galactic history, and I have alluded to this regarding the culture of Atlantis and the sophisticated worldwide culture that immediately preceded the barbaric worldwide culture that humanity has developed from over the past 5,000 years or so. Just collecting my thoughts. Viruses did not exist before that change in human consciousness and before that change in the human genetic structure. There was no way for diseases like viruses to have something to feed off of or to get inside of humans, because basically before the fall your chakras were always in a state of perfect balance and alignment, and it is only when the chakras are out of alignment that there is what we would define as dis-ease, something that is not at ease, or a state of health that is not perfect balanced health. Okay, don't worry, because I'm going to tie this all together, and level 1 and level 2 really relate very well this week. You have a physical corporeal form that is cellular and biological, and that science can point to and poke it with a stick and can confirm through consensual reality that it exists. You also have this beautiful non-physical energy presence that is not officially recognized by science, but that I will tell you is comprised of inorganic life. Now, we've also been doing a lot in this class when I draw the time vortex, and I'm drawing a time vortex on top of this person so that you can see like they are a big giant timeline. See, I'm drawing the timeline, so these would be all of their timelines going up and down here. Your non-physical energy presence is made up of time, and time is occupied by living entities and living beings. So this is a little bit of yoga of the perception. In order for you to understand and embody these concepts, it requires a little bit of stretching the belief system and stretching what you might already be programmed to think. So there are ideas, and thoughts are living beings that exist independent of your neurology. I call it your fatty idea catcher because the myelin, the sheath that insulates your nerves, is made of fat, and about 60% of your brain is fat. And I call it an idea catcher because your brain has a gelatinous texture to it, and it literally is one of these vats that can pick up the presence of neutrinos. Like if you've ever gone to a science museum, they often have a giant pool that is a vat that can detect neutrinos. Neutrinos are very high energy subatomic particles. They're so high energy that they can go through solid matter. You are being bathed in neutrinos right now. And science says that they flow through you as solid matter and that you do not feel any perception as a result. But I will tell you that neutrinos are analogous to thoughts, that neutrinos travel through the gelatinous, fatty idea catcher of your brain, and just like a ship leaves a wake behind it, like a little trail behind it, these neutrinos leave a little trail through the gelatinous substance that is your brain. So this is a rather scientific and laborious explanation of the idea that thoughts are living entities and that they can exist independent of human neurology. This is backwards to what objective materialist science and medical science teaches right now. Medical science teaches that first you develop a brain, and then as your brain gets complex enough and has enough quote unquote electrical wires and connections and energy, that there's enough complexity and sophistication that intelligence can just spring up. And, kind of the idea that like if you put springs and random parts together into a bag and shook it all up together, that eventually if you shook it up just right, you'd look inside and there would be a clock in there. This is, if I'm not characterizing this with my facetious tone of voice, I'll just be very overt. It's incredibly unlikely that that would happen, and that science holds on to those tendrils of belief, shows that science has some real large inconsistencies that it does not want to acknowledge. So your neurology is a container for thoughts and ideas, but those thoughts and ideas can also exist independent of the existence of your brain. This is like saying consciousness does not have to be in a container in order to exist. In fact, consciousness exists at large in the universe. So we are biological corporeal containers for consciousness, but consciousness also exists not in a container. Now we get into hubristic anthropomorphic pride. I said that the rules of what is alive according to science has been written by beings who denote themselves to be alive. It's like saying, I call myself intelligent and I'm going to write the rules of what intelligence is. So organic beings have written the rules of what they define life as. So there's a lot of looking through the anthropomorphic filter. It is possible to be in error, to not interpret facts correctly. And in fact, that is one of the greatest weak points of just beginning to open up the third eye and energize pure insight, that when you're still interpreting things according to the anthropomorphic or human level, that is when there is the greatest possibility for misinterpretation, as opposed to interpreting something on the purely empirical level of energy without interpretation or significance being placed upon it. Okay, so these non-physical energy centers are your abstract body. They're the possibilities. We've spoken about this. They're comprised of timelines. They're your possibilities of who you can be. But now I have to go further. We understand your chakras are timelines, and we understand that each chakra represents a realm or a layer of reality. We've gone over this before, with red being the physical layer and orange being the emotional layer, intellect, unconditional love, communication, insight, and the connection to the divine, and that is the definition of the human octave, that there are denser realms and less dense realms, and that we actually as consciousness are being refined into less dense realms. Now we have to understand that this is a literal partnership between yourself as the person in the driver's seat, is a good analogy, and your crew, your chakras. Your chakras are like the pit crew that helps the Indianapolis 500 race cars go around the track, that the crew, first of all, communicates to the driver and says, hey, there's a crash up on the track. Be sure to go to the right and not go to the left. The crew says, hey, it's time for you to bring in your car for maintenance. The crew says, hey, we need to change your tires because this one over here is melted off, right? These are your chakras. Your chakras are like your crew. And you are the race car driver driving around here on Earth. And your chakras will tell you when you need maintenance for your car. Like I was just recording a lesson about the importance of energetic hygiene, and this is clearing your chakras pretty much, like things that you do at night, different stretches, and even yoga is part of this energetic hygiene. The idea is that rebalancing your chakras at night leads to greater physical vitality. It is just like I brush my teeth so that I don't get dental decay. At night, when we all go to sleep, turning down the constant chatter of a conscious mind allows the chakras to come back into a state of balance. It's like salad dressing. Like all day long, you're shaking up the salad dressing and the oil and vinegar never have a chance to settle out. At night, all of these layers get a chance to settle out and become rebalanced because you get to reconnect to source. So I need to go in two directions here. First of all, who are the chakras? And second of all, why are you disconnected from source? So the first thing is the chakras are entities. Like the red chakra, I'm pointing to the red chakra down here. That is an entity, literally a non-corporeal being. We could consider like the king or queen of that realm. And each chakra has an entity that is considered to be associated with that world or that realm. Just like Gaia is the name of the female personality presence that we associate with the planet Earth, all right? It's like saying your chakras are a realm and there's a personality that is associated with each realm. So you, as the totality, are what happens when you add up all of your chakras. Red plus orange plus yellow plus green plus blue plus indigo plus violet equals you. So each one of us has a unique color recipe. Just like, you know something, stars have a unique color recipe. The light that is emitted from stars has slight variations in the amount of either red or blue or yellow. And this is one way that with telescopes, we can perceive light from different stars and tell where that light has come from. As above, so below. You are like an individual star. Your chakras have their own individual and unique recipe that adds up to the totality of you. Let's also get into this motivation of partnership, because I would really like for everyone, I would wish for everyone to have a positive and beneficial relationship with their chakras. These are literally otherworldly beings who live symbiotically with you. So in lesson 18, I spoke a lot about lower vibrational service to self entities. Entities who could be considered a form of parasite that draws energy from you against your will. And this is analogous to viruses or lower vibrational like a bacteria that is a pathogen, as opposed to probiotics, you know, the little tiny bacteria that live in your gut that are not pathogenic, they're what you want. Viruses and pathogens are acting for their own reward without care of the larger organism that they live within. Your chakras are not parasites. They're symbiotes, or possibly epiphytes, but there's a question about epiphyte. That means it arises from the phenomenon within another phenomenon. So an example of an epiphyte is mistletoe. Mistletoe does not have its own root system. It's a very special magical plant, and the Druids knew this. Mistletoe lives like in the cleft of an oak tree, and it draws energy and sustenance from the actual oak tree. So your chakras and you are together like this. There's no way for you to live without your chakras, and there's no good way for your chakras to live without you. And what do I mean by this? First of all, when human body processes stop, that is when your chakras go away. It is literally death. It's like, and I'm going to get into the solar system too. It's like saying, when you don't have a magnetic field around your body anymore, that's death. You can still have a body, you can still see the body and poke it with a stick, but the body is not alive. It no longer has energy centers or chakras that are in motion. So your chakras, I just spent time speaking about how thoughts and consciousness can exist independent of human neurology. So thoughts and consciousness don't have to live in your brain in order to be alive. But if thoughts wish to be manifested into the physical realm, it has to happen through a living conduit. So this is where you start to understand how special and important you are as the driver in the driver's seat, or the portal, the doorway through which concepts and energy from a higher dimensional, less dense realm can act. The red area and the violet area are the only two areas that interact directly. I know I'm showing you the flying rainbow lasagna, but this is also true in just the regular chakra shape, but this doesn't have color on it, so it's easier if I show you on here. But if you look at this model, and I hope it's not too blurry for you to see, you will see that the only places where these planes come together, the violet point, they come together up here, and they come together here at the edge, the red zone, okay? Look at that. Orange doesn't connect. There's a big fat gap there in between orange, nor does yellow, nor does green. This is like saying that the red zone, this corporeal physical realm, is one place where all of these chakras meet and interact. They also all meet and interact up here at the source, okay? So there are two places, according to this graphic representation or model of consciousness, where all consciousness can meet and interact. All consciousness can meet and interact at the source. Makes sense, we've already defined. The singularity is the 0th dimension. It is the source of everything. It is the presence of everything. It is the presence of all consciousness and all possibilities and probabilities. So of course, you can meet and talk with anyone there. And the only other place where you can do something like that is, here in the physical realm. I am using this as a graphic representation for the truth that the physical realm, what you see here, this is a stage or a platform upon which all forces, particles, and consciousness can act, meet each other, interact, and have things happen as a result of that. If you were not here on this stage in the physical world, you would not be able to be, first of all, getting ideas from me. I'm here in the physical world. You're here in the physical world. This is like saying these two edges are joined together so your ears can actually hear what I'm saying. If I wasn't in the physical world and you were in the physical world, it doesn't matter how much I'm yelling at you, your ears aren't in the same world as my mouth. And this is why a lot of people physical people cannot hear or interact with the non-physical realm, non-physical, extra-dimensional consciousness. If it's not coming through a physical container and making flapping mouth parts vibrate, can't be perceived by other people in the physical realm. So now we're getting into divine co-creative partnership. Let's say that there is an idea, a thought being that exists at large. It is just like, like a little particle floating through the world. It can be anything. We can think of it like a concept, like a number. The idea of the number 3, or the concept of make a pie, or the concept of a plant makes a flower and then makes a seed. Like, I'm just trying to give you an idea of how broad a concept can be. It can be anything. It's an abstraction. In order for that abstraction to be manifest, it needs to partner up with a conduit for manifestation. That's like what you and me are. We are conduits for manifestation. Let me just manage whatever just happened. Good. We are conduits for manifestation. So let's say before numbers were ever invented, there was once a little tiny thought that was flying around, and the thought was, I'm the number 3, I exist. But no one had ever thought of the number 3 yet, or written it down, or counted to 3 yet. So that little thought had to come into the energy system of a physical corporeal being. And then that being is able to make a physical, like an abstraction, like I just drew a 3. This symbol is the symbolic container for this concept. I can also contain this concept with my vocal cords. Look at that. Sound is a container for this concept. This concept is also a waveform or a pattern. I'm just drawing like a weird arbitrary pattern over this person. But imagine how you have an EEG with waveform tracings of your brain, or how you can envision a song is like a waveform pattern. The concept of the number 3 is a waveform pattern. And before it is even manifested by my mouth, making a vibration, it's vibrating up here. So you, male or female, are like a woman giving birth to ideas. The analogy is, let me erase this, that your mind is like a womb that can gestate ideas and give birth to concepts. Human ingenuity is the evidence of this divine co-creative partnership. And when you start to think about it, so I talk about humanity being cast down from high levels of sophistication into, about as low as it can be, about as degraded as it is possible to be in terms of consciousness, like having to learn to rub 2 sticks together to make fire. That concept itself was an idea that needed to be born in order for humanity to survive. Humans had to learn how to make fire. And so there was a concept that existed, a little living being that was just looking for an appropriate brain to jump into. And now we're getting into your third eye, because I've spoken about this and I'll get more into it. We have a whole lesson all about the pineal gland. But your third eye is an aperture, an opening that energy can come into. And it also is a sensing organ that you can reach out or attenuate with. And when you are acting like an aperture, that is when thoughts and ideas come to you. So it is pro-survival to be in divine co-creative partnership with one's chakras. In a less sophisticated time, the pro-survival ideas that might have come into you would have been things like, here's how to make fire. Here's how to pile up sticks and twigs into a basic shelter. This plant is good. This plant is poison. And other various, very simple and seemingly obvious necessities for survival. But these were not obvious to humanity in its degraded state. I have to pause this back here, but don't worry, we'll keep going with it. Let me just save this. Thank you for bearing with me, and then I will get back onto this. Gives it a minute while it saves. It is beneficial and pro-survival to be in partnership with your chakras. And even if you do not have conscious knowledge that you're in partnership with your chakras, everyone who's alive has chakras. So I've already established a couple of crucial ideas here. Number 1, if you are alive, it means that you have a functional chakra system, okay? The other thing is that The chakras themselves are alive consciousnesses. Here we go. I can focus much better once I have this out of the way. There we go. Chakras themselves, and just doing the recording. Here's part 2. Chakras themselves are alive organisms. It is pro-survival to partner up with those chakras. So here's the idea. You cannot live without your chakras. Your chakras can live without you, but they can't manifest anything into this world without you. They need partnership. Some ideas are wonderful ideas that can be so helpful to humanity. And those ideas are like little children waiting to be born. Okay, just waiting for, Zoom just gave me like a heads up message. These ideas that exist at large are like children waiting to be born. And they're looking for the right mind, the right opportunity to be manifest. So this goes back also to like the Greek myth of Prometheus. Prometheus is the god who brought the idea of fire to humanity, humans who were living in a very simplistic and degraded state, who were living like animals. Prometheus, according to the myth, took pity on these animalistic like humans and gave them fire, the concept of fire. But of course, fire can also be used to destroy. Fire, if it is not cared for properly, can get out of control. And Prometheus was punished by the other gods for this because it was considered to be a very bad idea. Fire is like a form of technology. And the existence of fire not only allowed humans to get a leg up in their development, not only to be able to be warm and not have to live like an animal, but fire was essential for humans to be able to ingest enough calories every day to feed their fatty idea catchers. So your brain, your fatty idea catcher, takes a lot of energy to run. It's kind of like your computer. Your computer takes a lot of electricity to run it. So in your body as a biological system, there's a limit to how much plant matter you can put into your intestines and how many calories you can get from that with raw plant matter. And there is a limit to how effectively one can digest raw meat. And the invention of fire, or the concept of fire, allowed humans to cook food and ingest and digest more effectively and get enough nutrition to fuel the fatty idea catcher. It's a little bit far afield. It's not exactly what I wanted to speak about, but it's part of it. What I'm trying to get at here is the idea that you're in partnership with your chakras. These are alive, conscious entities, and that they actually are attempting to help guide you and help you steer while you are down here in the first person position, like the experiencer of this whatever play or video game or movie or whatever you would like to, however you would like to characterize it. You are the experiencer. And you have this set of entities who, first of all, can perceive everything that you are perceiving. Whatever you're perceiving with your senses, they can perceive it with their senses. Oh, one moment, please. One moment, please.